Hello everyone. In this video we're going to combine the feet to the legs and the legs to the torso or the body, and we'll have to model in a little bit here in this region, but for the most part we're good to get started. The first thing I would like actually to do is make sure that I have a proper topology set. I'm going to turn shading and wireframe on shaded on to begin this process. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to combine both legs. So I'm selecting one, shift selecting the next one, and I'm hitting the combine button. Now from this point I'm going to do my edge, and I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to run a bridge, and I'm going to add one subdivision, and I'm going to just press enter. Now from here I'm going to simply, and actually I'm sorry, I want to do that with, let's see if the bridge will work with those selected. Yep. Instead of one subdivision, actually make it 3. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I can turn on my symmetry here, and press W and hold shift, and I'm going to extrude that up. And the first thing I'm going to do is in vertex select these and merge vertices to center. Same thing on the back side, this one to this one. And what I've just done here is I've actually created an extra edge loop that allows proper deformation while also retaining the extra topology I will be modeling in here. Now, at this point, you could, it really depends on your reference. So there's no right or wrong way to do this, as long as A, it looks good, and B, most importantly, the topology is well done for deformation later when we begin to rig it. So the first thing I want to do is combine the legs and then bridge these two together and then run an extrude up, and then from here I can begin to sort of model in a lot of what I need for this section. So I'm just going to run an extrude upwards here, and I'm going to run one more, give or take about to there, and same thing, and I can actually bring this somewhat lower, and then be sure to merge your vertices. We're gonna get more topology in here, so I'm not too concerned about exactly if it's looking okay, and I can actually just run a quick double click. I just deleted those faces. I thought I was going to need them, which I do, but I'm just going to drag them up and then bring this flush and bring this up, and I'm going to turn off my symmetry at this point and reselect these edges so it's in the center, and just sort of drag it inward. I know it looks a little funny at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and fix that here shortly, and I'll drag that, scale that out just ever so slightly. Now, one of the things that I knew right away when I added more topology into this region to get the arm working properly, and also knowing that I have extra topology here in the foot region, I knew that I would have to include extra subdivisions, and at some point, give or take, I may have to add more or delete some. So that's all pertaining to your personal reference, but this will give you an idea on how to get started. So we're creating a closed mesh. So what that means is basically, is it possible to model an entire mesh without having it being entirely closed? Yes, it is. For purposes of this project, we're going to keep it a closed mesh, and this should help us by not having any extra complications later when we begin rigging it. So I have this extra face at the top that I did just as a sort of a visual reference, and I'm going to go ahead and delete it at the moment. And what I'm going to do here with the, actually I'm going to keep it for this second. What I'm going to do here with the leg, now I can turn on symmetry and reselect it just to make sure that it's all selected, and then go ahead and start to create my pant leg. So I just selected all those edges, and I'm scaling them in ever so slightly, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run another extrude, and I'm going to scale them in a little bit. And this is where it gets a little tricky, especially if you're not 100% comfortable modeling sort of inside your mesh. But it is something that does happen from time to time. One way to help that is I'm going to select all of these, and I'm just going to scale these in, because no one can really see this part. It won't look funny, too funny, if it's not properly topologized, or excuse me, not topology, proportioned is what I meant. So up to this point, I have a little bit of a mesh issue here, kind of bleeding through. So I'm just going to drag this over ever so slightly, and I'm actually going to scale it in a little bit more and sort of fix it the best I possibly can at the moment. As I wrap around my leg, I just kind of want to make sure that there's no visible vertices. And now I'm ready to begin adding topology. In this particular instance, I know in this region I'm going to need 2, so I'm going to do add divisions to faces. I'm going to try the U, and the U did not work. As you noticed on the right side of the body when we were doing that with symmetry on, it didn't work. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to switch to my V and do apply. So now I'm going to begin that same process we did with the hand. Okay, there we go. Just making sure I didn't lose it. Alright, and I know I'm going to need one in here. And I could use the multi-cut tool. So that's another way to do this. In this region, I'll see if I can just kind of do that one. And this one. And that one. And here I'm going to need an extra subdivision. And this one goes here. And that one goes there. And I believe they're all lined up properly. This is going through part of the shoe. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that outward a little bit. And you can always do some touch-ups here and there. To your model, you have a little bit more freedom here, because at this point in this section of my foot, I don't really need it to match my mesh perfectly, if you will. And now I'm going to combine both of these objects, mesh combine, or the little circle, and then in here I'm in my wireframe mode. I'm going to go to vertice. I know these are all lined up well, and I'm going to do merge vertices, and then I'm just going to go ahead and check to make sure that they merged right. If one does, typically they all do, as long as you snap them all into place. And again, just like the hand, I used V to snap my verts to one another. Extremely commonly used tool, snapping vertices. And now I'm pretty pleased with that. I have this little shell in here. And one last thing, in my 5 mode, I just went back so you could see. I need to select my object here, and I'm going to select my multi-cut tool, and I'm just going to add an extra subdivision in both the inside and the outside. And that one doesn't want to seem to do it. Let's see. There it goes. So now I've got that subdivision. I added an extra subdivision on the inside of that and on the outside. And that just gives me a little bit of wiggle room when I begin to animate it, and it starts to deform. Okay, so that is my foot on this side. I've added a little bit of topology. I'm going to need to add more, and that's okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to face, turn off my symmetry, and I'm simply going to click and drag over half of this. And I'm going to delete this foot. And like before, I could run a duplicate special, which is Control-Shift-D, keyboard shortcut, as long as you didn't change any of the settings. And then you have that freedom to sort of mess around with the mesh on both sides if you'd like. I'm going to combine mine right away, and from this point I'm going to combine my legs into my shirt. Now that I got this far, I have a little push out here, and I'm going to go ahead and match my reference as closely as possible here. But the first thing I want to do is Mesh Tools, Sculpting Tools, Sculpt Tool. I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm just going to start to smooth some of this stuff out. And then in here, ooh, now I just noticed a mistake. You see what's happening here? It's going to happen right here also. What happened is I'm going to undo all that. And actually, this is a good spot to sort of... Okay. Combine both of these, I believe. Yep. I've already done this one section. What I did wrong, actually, is I am going to switch to my front viewport. When I combine the objects, this may happen to you also, I never combined the vertices. I never merged the vertices. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Turn off B. And I need to make sure that I get just the vertices I want. So it could be a close click and drag. Alright, and now I'm going to merge vertices. Okay, going back to my sculpt tool, I'm going to switch into a different viewport, my perspective view. I'm going to increase my brush size tool, and I'm actually going to turn symmetry on object X, and then I'm going to start to sculpt in a little bit of the definition that I would like this to have. Okay. And here is the buttocks. Go ahead and just sort of push that out ever so slightly. I'm giving it a little bit more room than I actually need at the moment. It's starting to plop out a little bit too much. That's a funny word to use for this part, but that's kind of what happened. And I'm going to continue sort of sculpting this in. And you can always run a smooth. And I'm just trying to get that definition that I need. Not too exaggerated, unless that's the type of character you have. And something like that will do, and then I'll go back and check it against my reference here shortly. So, At this point, I'm going to soften edges. And the next part will get a little tricky because now we're going to start to match up our geometry to our body. Now, in this region, I can tell you right off the bat, I need to add divisions to faces, and it did the wrong ones, so I need to go back. And you can use your multi-cut tool if you'd like. And I'm going to begin to sort of line these up. Now, one of the things, just like I did with the shoe, is I'm going to turn off symmetry really quickly. I had already extruded, so I had that invisible extrude there. I'm going to sort of just drag in ever so slightly and then create the inside lip of it, not giving it too much room, and that's about where I'm going to. Just so it sort of looks like a shirt that kind of hangs over. Alright? So here, I'm going to start. I think it's going to be easier from inside to match this up. So I'm going directly from the center point. If it's easier for you to do it this way, that's fine also. And I'm going to start to and turn on my symmetry. Line these up. Okay? And make sure that you're not snapping to a vertice. I'm holding V when I do this. Make sure you're not snapping to a vertice inside the body, you know, by the arm or something. So make sure you're doing this as closely as you can to line this up right. Okay. And now I think I'm going to cut into the body viewport here. And I'm going to see in a moment here, I can tell right here I'm going to need extra topology. As you can tell, it runs all the way around the body. Totally fine. Add divisions to faces. Okay. And then just go ahead and make sure that these vertices are lined up properly. Again, in here, it looks like I need I need quite a few. 1, 2, 3. This one I'm going to snap here. So in this region, and I got to double check to see where it's going. Okay, so that's going to wrap all the way around also. Going to add divisions to faces. And in this case, I'm going to do, I think, 4. And of course, that didn't work. Okay. Apply. Okay, so that didn't work. Sometimes it's just too much for it to kind of work through. And I guarantee it has something to do with it once it gets to this side, U and V switching. So what we'll do for this section is holding control using my multi-cut tool. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And now I will snap these accordingly. Just make sure that they're all lined up. So these started snapping to the wrong ones. And do I have one that's too... Oh, this one needs to go here. This one needs to go here. That one has to go there. Okay. Alright. Now, I'm up to the front. I'll start to line these up here, and here, and here, and it looks like I need at least one more right in this section. And I'm going to see if that wraps all the way around, and that one wraps all the way around to the back. So what can I do here? Instead of deleting a face and creating another edge loop here, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. And then I'm going to start to adjust that later, but you'll see that I actually have the topology needed to line this up pretty well. And what happened over here? Okay, so I have something going on right here where I have this going up and this one going up. What I'm going to do to fix that is just run that across, and then I'm going to delete these edges, holding Control, and that should fix that. Okay, so now that I've got that far, highlighting both the body and the legs in my front viewport, I'm going to combine these, and I'm going to run a highlighting all the vertices. I'm going to hold Shift, right click, merge vertices, and merge vertices. And now I see something on the opposite side over here. Nope. Maybe not. Let me see. Looks like I may have made a subtle mistake. So this one and this one. And I'm going to delete those. And I'm going to delete these. And then I'm going to go to my edge mode and highlight both of these and fill hole. Okay, that worked. And over here, it looks like when I deleted the one, it deleted one that I needed over here. So let's see what happens with this one. Okay. So one thing I'm going to do to fix this is I've got this extra edge loop. I could just go ahead and delete it, but I want to keep the topology in that region. And on this side, I don't have it. So I'm going to use my multi-cut tool. I'm going to hold Control and press Control click. I'm going to wrap around and see what that does. Now I've got an extra edge loop coming around here, and I think in this case I'm going to cut in manually down this section. And make sure I come back around to here and then back up here. Alright, so that gives me the topology I need up to that point, and this one I'm going to run into the body this way. And I'm going to delete that edge, and now I have my quads all the way around, as well as the topology that I need for both sides. So, going back, this can be tricky, but just give it your best shot. If you need to include triangles, go right ahead and do that. That is not a problem. And trying to find out. There it is. Okay. So now I did that on this side of the body, but I didn't do it to the other side. The next thing we do, delete 1/2 of this body. I'm going to delete the right side. And then I'm going to Control D, scale -1, combine once more, enter my vertex mode, and just run a quick highlight down all these vertices. Now again, in this region you might highlight some that you don't need, so you can try to get them all right away with one quick little swift click. If that does not work, it really shouldn't matter, honestly, too much. Oop. If it's not merging to anything else. But just in case, that's fine. I'm going to just test it to see if it works. Merge vertices. Ooh. Merge vertices. Merge vertices. And it did not, because right down here, if you noticed, it did it did merge vertices that I did not want it to do. So make sure you are aware that that can happen. Now I'm going to click that one more time. For whatever reason, okay. I'm going to try this one more time, but I'm going to be much more careful. I'm going to start zoomed in here. And then I'm going to run one right to there. Okay. Merge vertices, merge vertices. Okay, now that I've got that all set up, my characters all combined one solid object. By pressing 3 on your keyboard, we'll check to see if it's a completely closed object. This is looking pretty good up to this point. I'm pleased with it everywhere around the arms because I know it's all closed, or especially around the wrist too. Make sure. You'll notice some kind of weird pinching happening if you didn't merge it properly. And there's my body so far on the mesh. Now you could do some cleanup, some little cleanup touch-ups. Mesh tools, sculpting tool. I love the sculpting tool personally. It's saying it won't work because of sculpting tool cannot be performed on non-manifold geometry. Perform a mesh cleanup before using the sculpting tools. This happens from time to time. What I'm going to do is I'm first going to run an edit, delete all by type history, and then I'm going to try the mesh tools again. Oops. Excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to do mesh tools again and run sculpting tool and sculpt tool. It still says it's not working. I'm going to show you one last thing while the error is happening at the moment. If I go to, is it edit mesh, or is it mesh? Mesh cleanup. I have cleanup matching polygons, apply to selected objects, keep construction history, and then I have nothing else selected, nothing in fixed by tessellation, nothing in remove geometry, and I'm just going to run a cleanup. And now I'm going to try my mesh tools. Basically, with the settings that I have shown you right there, it'll keep your object exactly as it is, and it just cleans it up the best it can. In which case, one more time. Clean up matching polygons, keep construction history, apply to selected objects. Let's do apply to all polygonal objects. And fix by tessellation faces with holes. Let's try that. And run apply. Mesh tools, sculpting tool. Not be formed. Okay. What I don't want you to do is do something like this, because then it cleans it up and triangulates it, and I find it to be much more difficult to work with like this. It's also much more confusing to look at. So that would fix it, but I don't want it to be like that. Let's do faces with more than 4 sides and apply. And let's try one more time. I'm trying to avoid, whoops. Okay, I'm trying to avoid any errors with vertice, with messing with the current topology you have on your mesh. Okay. And there's other ways to go about fixing it. I just personally, I wanted to pull some of this geometry out this way. I can do it by pushing and pulling vertices. Not an issue. I just find the sculpting tool to, or the smooth tool, basically the smooth tool, to help do that, along with the sculpting tool. They're both embedded inside the same thing. And I just want to go ahead and check one thing here. So this is all good. And let's try this one more time. Oh, and let me check down here to make sure that this is all good. And my vertices, because this is where I also merged some verts. Okay, that looks okay. I'm going to try this one more time. If not, in a separate video, I'll show you how to sort of adjust some of this topology to match up a little bit cleaner. Let's try smooth tool, see if that works. Nope. Okay. Mesh. Clean up. Apply to selected objects. Let's delete, keep construction history. Let's try non-planar. Let's try concave. I just don't want it to tessellate it. Non-manifold geometry. And let's turn off concave. So I turned off concave. I left non-manifold geometry on. Normals and geometry. I'm going to try that. And it just did it to some sections here. I'm going to undo that because I don't want it to mess faces with holes. I'm going to try this one more time. I don't want it to mess up with my geometry too much, which it's doing. Edges with 0 length. Apply one more time. No. No. So I'm just trying to get this faces with 0 geometry. And let's try that. No. And I'm getting some weird sort of things happening here. One of the things I can do is to keep my topology the way I'd like it. I can simply go through once this has done that. Ooh. No, that's not going to work. I'll show you in a separate video on how to go ahead and fix that. I'll try to show you how to fix the cleanup tool so you can sculpt again on it. But otherwise, I'll also show you how to just pull and push and pull vertices in order to get the shape that you want. I personally like the sculpting tool better, but it doesn't seem to be cooperating. I've shown you it in numerous videos, so you know it does work and works pretty well. But if in case this happens to you, I will post a separate video for you on how to fix it. Thanks for watching up to this point. in a later video, I will show you how to use the cleanup tool. Hopefully it won't mess up with the geometry too much, and we'll be able to sculpt back again on it. This is all I'm looking for your submission. Just submit your Maya file, and thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.